Ugh. This is the best I can do as far as giving a good view of the comic. Open, spread out, 2 pages, right in the view of the camera. Okay. I think there are fancy camera tricks you can do. And what I mean by fancy camera tricks is that if I had a DSLR right now, I could zoom in on one page at a time, or take pictures of a single panel, then edit it into the video. Basically, I'm making excuses for myself to not do all those fancy things. All that aside, let's get into my first my new comic, and then these back issues. Gosh, I can't consider Swamp Thing just a simple back issue. I mean, this Swamp Thing annual, this is issue number 3, is a big deal. Especially in terms of collecting, and how special it is in Swamp Thing canon. I know that there are many books, not many books, but a few Swamp Thing issues that were not as good in the main continuity and in the annual issues. But I've never heard from anyone that these books were ever really, really, really bad. This was written by Rick Veitch, or Veitch. And it looks amazing. And I'm saying that just based on a casual flip through. It looks just beautiful. But compared to this issue, Swamp Thing number 64, now I'm basically just getting into a full review of this, even though I said I'd get to Daisy first. Forget that. I'm getting into Swamp Thing now. Fully. This is a commitment we're going to follow together, everybody. So, this is something I noticed in Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans #4. The colors are pretty much just as saturated as in this Swamp Thing annual. Look at that color saturation and the cinematic storytelling. It's incredible. And this is just high quality paper too. It's not too thick, it's not too thin. It's just right for comics. And I love that actually the panel layout is, well, George Perez and Marv Wolfman, their storytelling is unique, but this panel layout is kind of similar to Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans #4. It just adds to the cinematic quality of this book. Whereas here in the main title, the cinematic quality is there. The panel layout is really strong and beautiful, but the colors aren't as saturated. So I'm wondering whether this was intentional or that the annual's printing quality is what this main book was supposed to be, but there were issues printing it in these deep saturated hues. So I noticed just now flipping through this page here, right in the margin, I guess you could call it a page gutter, you can tell where there was this lighter blue, but then I guess when they layered over for maybe when they layered over it with green, this like muddy green, it changed the entire the tone of the entire page, so it looks more like a teal overall, except for right in this margin where the hue was more of a nice baby blue or the color of that this blue must have been just a color that the colorist chose to simply tell the reader that this scene takes place underwater. Swamp Thing is fighting a crocodile underwater. That's the scene description. So colorist went, all right, blue water. But then they had to also communicate to the printers that the water had to look a bit more muddy or murky. So that was done, but during the printing, there was just an error. I'm unsure what more I could say about it, other than that's just an interesting thing I noticed. It's not even a big deal. I don't want to start naming names and saying what they did was wrong and, shaming them. But it's just really strange that such a high quality book has these little minor errors that readers could actually notice, especially those who just obsess over Swamp Thing number 64. I mean, I'm not that kind of person, but blah blah blah. What I mean is, I'm not that kind of person when it comes to Swamp Thing. But I understand if someone eventually just starts noticing these little minor details that don't really point to a significant error. It just says that this is supposed to be a comic book, so the pages have to be folded precisely where one page ends here and then another begins. You have to be able to tell the difference between page 8 and page 9, for example. But sometimes things get messed up. So you get 7 and 8 printed very similarly when it seems like there was meant to be some cutoff where the panel border takes over the page instead of the art being like made to fill the page. Point is, I think you all know what I mean. And as I said, these things are minor. So at the end of the day, even though I notice some small errors, it's not that important, and everyone can still enjoy this comic book. Look at that cover. It's amazing. By the way, I bought all 3 of these comic books at Bizarro World in Davis, California. I don't think the owner really takes much care of some of these books. I think he just puts them in boxes and then leaves them. He can't forget about them. He's the fucking owner of the store. He can't forget about them. He's the owner. Like that's it's important to catalog in some way all of your inventory, but I think he just gets in so many, he receives so many comic books weekly, maybe daily even, that he's not really able to go out and take time out of his day to clean the bags if the comic book is in the bag, or inspect whether the book is really damaged to the point where it's just better to throw it away, or it can be put out on the floor, meaning it can be put out in the store. He just can't gauge all of that himself on a daily basis. He just either leaves it all in a box and then either keeps the box so he can put it out neatly into the store in an aisle or on a shelf, or he just, like where I found these, they were in long boxes and shoved in between some Superman books and Ghost Rider. So I understand to a point why this annual is in really good shape, but and so is Swamp Thing, but the pages have little dents in them, or the spine is a little damaged. It's just that where I reach the moment that I decide to dock points, I mean, is when I see, like, in one box there was more than one comic book missing a cover, and they were all torn up because people had been reaching into the boxes, messing around with the book. And maybe it I think I saw one Mad magazine, so maybe a customer had been touching an already very fragile comic book or magazine, so they were messing around with it, looking at it, and then, oh no, the comic book's cover falls off. Oh well, shove it back into the box. Or maybe if someone's nice enough, they could go tell the owner and say, hey, the cover fell off. Do you want to keep this or throw it in the trash? Something of that nature. So he says, "No, whatever, we'll throw it in the trash." So, even though I can understand where the owner and maybe his employees, if he has some, are coming from when they're dealing with their inventory, it's just that I don't want to have dirty comic books. I don't want to own a comic book that has been tossed around instead of taken care of. Now, this book here is Dark Hook. This book here is a Dark Horse Comics publication. And Daisy is very new. This Daisy #1 was published in December 2021. And this book is fresh, really. So I'm not bothered by little scuffs, which I can see are present at the spine, and there are little dents in the cover from handling. That's fine. I think Bizarro World had more than one of the Daisy issue #1 books. So, since he had more than one of these, it's understandable that some of them would be scuffed and some wouldn't be. So, if I reached in there and found another copy, that was totally fine. I would have gotten it, but I'm satisfied with this one that I have. This comic book is interesting, but I'm not really a fan of the artwork. The style is just not really my cup of tea. I like it in some areas, such as when the artist does a close up on characters' faces. That's really cool. But I feel that I feel that I am often put off by the appearance of digital art. What I mean by put off is I'm not drawn to digital renderings. I'm not drawn to, pun intended, this this kind of flat coloring, very flat inks. It doesn't really appear to me as if these digital pieces of art, meaning they were drawn by hand in something like Procreate or Adobe Illustrator, this just doesn't appeal to me, really. I like this cover. I like the cover of Daisy. And Colin Lorimer. Colin Lorimer is a really good artist. I'm not denying that. He has this really excellent way of rendering human characters in this very naturalistic way. It's naturalistic but not realistic. Like, these people have these very subtle differences in their facial appearance, or the facial structure, but they all kind of blend together. At least if I were hard pressed to recall any of these characters' faces, like this Lindsay character. If I were to try to remember her, my brain would probably picture Daisy first. Because, yes, I said that Colin Lorimer's character rendering is kind of samey. I basically implied that. I think that the design of Daisy is really good. She looks very distinct and kind, passive, but the way that he renders the lips and their chins, it doesn't seem to really differentiate them from the other. This cop guy, what is his name? Well, that doesn't matter. But the cop, he kind of looks like he could be related to Lindsay, and Daisy looks a bit like Lindsay. Or actually, Lindsay looks a bit like Robin Wright when she had short hair. I think that was his reference here, or maybe a little bit of Connie Nielsen. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe these people just have really Nordic features. And I don't know what that says about Colin Lorimer, but I know it says something about me that I've watched too many Scandinavian cop shows to the point where, aside from what I said about, excuse the noise, aside from what I said about Lindsay looking like Robin Wright, they all kind of have these, the appearance of characters from something like Wallander on Netflix, or any of those other Scandinavian cop shows you can find on Netflix. All of this is very long-winded. That's how I am. Long-winded, rambly. But I have hope that all of you are following along. One point I want to make about Daisy that I've been meaning to get to for these past few minutes is that it's really fascinating that Mr. Lorimer and Joanna Lafuente, Anita Vu, and Jim Campbell all said yes to a story that references a non-canonical religious text, the Book of Enoch. Which, if you're not familiar with it, look into it. It gives a little more context to what happens in Genesis, specifically regarding the Nephilim. Yes, the Nephilim. And Nephilim are the descendants of giants who married human women. Now, these human women are not supposed to be the final form, the humans that exist on the earth now. They're early humans. Like, technically, if you're going by the Bible's timeline, the Nephilim are basically like what the Neanderthal is to us in this present day. They're an extinct species of hominid. So, long story short, you need a bit of context for this book. Daisy isn't something you just pick up as light reading. A person needs to have a bit of a background in theology, or have, or go to church or something like that. Context is key for this first issue. Otherwise, you really wouldn't understand why Daisy is almost 9 feet tall and quotes Bible verses. It would be very weird. And basically you will have had to have lived under a rock for most of your life to not really understand this plot. That's what I mean. And yes, having said that, that means that the story is a bit cliche, and it's very easy to tell right out the gate in issue 1. But I'm willing to give the story a fighting chance, and hope that I will enjoy it for what it is. Otherwise, I don't think I would continue reading this book. This cover is a reference to... I'm going to make another point. This cover is a reference to a popular painting of Joan of Arc. Now, I'll have to put it in the description what that exact painting is. I can't remember it off of the top of my head. But Joan of Arc is like sort of turned away from someone in the painting. just slightly. She's in a diagonal position, facing away from some pews, some benches, in what looks to be a church. And she's dressed formally in armor and a skirt for the coronation of King Louis. So I like the cover, but I feel it's only reference for the sake of reference, rather than really saying much right now about the story. As I've already sort of alluded to, I'm willing to give Daisy the benefit of the doubt, but I think this reference right now is not really telling me much about Daisy as a character, because she really doesn't do anything in this first issue. I can tell that she's kind, or at least passive in general, because of the situations she's in. So she wants to help people, or at least help the kids that live in the same houses she does. I think she's basically part of a cult. But she's beholden to a male figure, or more than one figure. She is beholden to her values, actually. Or they may be values that she thinks she has to maintain in order to put on a brave face when presented with danger or these little facts of the life she has chosen, or was unwittingly made a part of. Shouldn't have flipped there. That's a bit of a spoiler. Honestly, I really don't know who's watching my videos, what sort of work they're into, you all are into. I just know that I'm talking about comic books. People seem to be watching these videos that I make about comic books and art in general, and they seem to be enjoying them. So here I am now talking about three very, very different stories. So whatever you take from this video in particular, whatever you take from this video in particular, I hope it's that I'm just giving everyone an insight into what I'm enjoying these days in terms of reading comics, in terms of reading and enjoying comics. I've said my piece on Daisy and Swamp Thing. I've read Daisy. I haven't read the Swamp Thing books. But I think that what I've learned about Swamp Thing, I have a strong inclination to believe right now that I will enjoy Swamp Thing more than Daisy. It's a bit unfortunate because I really want to like Daisy. If I haven't already said it, I'll say it now. It's a very mediocre book. And it's one of those things that you really respect the writer/artist for creating, but you don't really see what the point is. This is issue 1, though, and as I've already said, I'm going to continue reading this. I just don't have much faith in it going forward. I don't know that it will change for the better, or that my opinion will change on this book. I realize now, as this video draws to a close, that I had intended to talk about some other books, but obviously I'm not going to get to that today, so I'll leave that. I'll leave those comic books for another day, and maybe that'll be a little more exciting, a little bit more fun for me to talk about. Today it's a mixed bag, kind of. Mostly positive, but I understand that my feelings are a little bit difficult to interpret right now. When it comes to this new release that I have versus, or as compared to, my feelings about Swamp Thing. So the Swamp Thing is the positive and Daisy is the negative. It's okay though. Moving forward, I hope all you unique or returning viewers have a great afternoon, evening. Have a great day tomorrow. Have a great week. And we'll join back up here later this week. Or if not later this week, next week. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.